The last time you saw these two cars in the same frame on this channel, we had an exciting day. The Altroz won that day with its sure-footed handling and flat ride. And of course, you've probably noticed that the Glanza wasn't white. But that matters little today because there's a new challenger today. The i20 is packed with features, has oodles of space, and has its sight firmly set on the Altroz. And you know what? We had so much fun bringing you the story the last time, we are going to do it again. And as you've pointed out, we did make a few mistakes. We're going to try and fix those. So first off, you pointed out that I was wearing quite a shabby helmet. And we've kind of fixed that today. And there was one other really big omission. The benchmark for handling hatchbacks. The Polo GT is here. Let's go, let's go, let's go! Just like the last time, we're on that same corner on a closed private road. We're going to start accelerating towards the corner and entering it at a set speed. We'll start at 40 km per hour and increase the speed by 10 km per hour each time. We'll do this 3 times for each car and see which one can hold its line through the corner best. But first, let's get to know our contestants better. The i20 is long and low and corners nice and flat. Hyundai also won the 2019 WRC Constructors Championship with a car based on the i20. So there are some sporty genes in this thing. Let's see if they come out to play right now. The Polo also has plenty of WRC wins in its sporting history. And what about 4 championships on a row from 2013 to 2016? Yes, it would be a bit of an understatement to say that the expectations are high with this one. The Altroz is our defending champion. And it's all set to defend that title, and it's going to set a benchmark for the other 2 cars to follow. So let's go 40 kmph, first corner. The run at 40 km per hour barely troubled any of the cars, and they made it through without any drama. We upped the ante, pushing the 3 through the corner at 50 km per hour. But the cones were happier than I was. Not done. 60 km per hour it is. The competition has clearly hotted up this time round. 60 km per hour was a clear differentiator the last time, but this time it hasn't produced a winner. So time for a bonus round? And we're done with the cornering test. I'm back in the Altroz. And man, this thing surprised all of us. We had to push the speed up to 70 kmph before one of them cracked. And in fact, in some way, all of them did. The Altroz did hit 2 cones, but at 70 kmph to that very tight corner, it still felt the most stable. A bit of a surprise, and a nice one at that. The i20 was the second best car in the test. At 70 km per hour, it also clipped just 2 cones, but it felt just a little less stable than the Altroz while doing it. The Polo was a bit of a surprise in this test. We did expect it to do a little better, and it did keep up with both the Altroz and the i20 till 60 km per hour. But at 70 km per hour, that corner was just too tight, and it drifted wide and killed 3 cones. So the winner being the Altroz gets 3 points, the i20 gets 2, and the Polo gets just 1. One thing that plays a very important part in how exciting a car is to drive is the powertrain, and the i20 is nicely spec'd in that department. So there's a 1.2 litre naturally aspirated petrol, a 1 litre turbo petrol, and this, the 1.5 litre diesel. We've tested both the 1 litre turbo petrol and the 1.5 litre turbo diesel. And the turbo diesel is the faster car, which is why we have it on the test today. The i20 also has a number of gearbox options. So there's a manual, a CVT automatic, a 7-speed dual clutch automatic, and even a 6-speed intelligent manual. That's quite nice to drive as well. And with the 1-litre turbo petrol and the 1.5-litre turbo diesel, you have a choice of fuel when it comes to picking a fast i20. And that's what gives the i20 an edge in the powertrain department. The Polo may have lost its diesel engine options, but it has a naturally aspirated petrol and a turbo petrol. And that turbo petrol's performance is good enough to bring it into second place in this test. And when it comes to gearboxes, there's both manual and automatic options, with the 6-speed torque converter automatic being nice and peppy when it comes to performance and not being too much of a drain on the mileage either. The Altroz falls behind when it comes to powertrain options. Yes, there are a petrol and a diesel engine option, but even the diesel, which is the more peppy of the two, is almost 2.5 seconds slower than this i20 diesel. And there's also very poor connection between your throttle and what the engine is doing. So in situations where maybe you're pulling a U-turn or you're stopping and starting on a slope, you have to press down on the pedal, and there's almost a second's gap before the engine starts responding to that. And this disconnect gives the enthusiast driver, well, not a very nice feeling. There are also just manual gearbox options, though Tata have announced that the Altroz would get a dual clutch automatic sometime in the future. So when it comes to powertrains, the i20 tops the list, gets 3 points, the Polo gets 2, and the Altroz gets just the 1. The Polo may have lost some ground in the corner, but it does make up a bit of that in braking performance. The braking test's simple. Pass a set of cones at 80 km/h and stomp on the brakes to come to a halt as soon as possible. We're hitting the brakes as hard as we could with ABS chattering all the way to simulate an emergency stop. In our braking test, from 80 km/h to 0, it came to stop in the shortest distance and also felt the most stable. The i20 was next. It came to a stop in just over 24 meters, just about a meter longer than the Polo. And all the good work the Altroz did in its cornering, it lost some of that in braking. It took the longest distance to stop, coming to a stop in just over 27 meters. So, Altroz gets 1 point, i20 2, and the Polo 3 points. The final challenge is aimed at testing out the ride quality of the three cars. Yes, it's the same stretch of broken metal country lane as before. And this time though, we've thrown in a couple of potholes for good measure. The Altroz won this the last time around. So let's see what happens today. The Altroz led the way again for the other two cars. It was the most composed over the broken stretches, and this is visible with how flat the chassis stays over all the bumps, while the wheels are seen constantly moving in their wheel wells. It also stayed the flattest over the broken stretches, and the suspension was the best at cushioning the blow from the big potholes in the test. It's the same car we tested the last time round, and so the rattles and squeaks from the panels are still there, as well as more road noise than the other two. It's the most comfortable, but also easily the noisiest cabin in the test. And while it's better at the rougher stuff, at slower speeds smaller imperfections can be felt more than in the i20. The i20 felt the least stable over the rough patch of road, and as you can see from the slow-mo footage, the body moves around the most, even more than in the Polo. The potholes are also felt more in the i20 than in the Altroz. Where the i20 fares better is over smooth tarmac, where the smaller imperfections are nicely ironed out and the cabin is also less noisy than in the Altroz. The Polo was the second best in this test, and though the slow motion showed a little body movement, the German hatch always felt more calm and composed than the i20. The potholes made the most impact with the Polo, both via a crashing sound from the suspension, as well as an impact that was little more pronounced than the i20 or the Altroz. Over urban road conditions, the Polo fares a lot better. Volkswagen have increased its ability to deal with small road imperfections, and it's a lot more composed than it used to be. And it has the best sound insulation of the three.
So let's tally the scores now. Well, the Altroz, it scored 8, the i20 scores 8, and the Polo also scores 8. What? It's a tie. Let me just check that again. Yes, it's a tie. So clearly none of these cars are perfect, and well, you'd probably want the chassis from the Altroz, the powertrains from the i20, and the braking performance from the Polo. So clearly there's a lot of room for improvement in the segment for the enthusiast. Maybe you could see something coming from, I don't know, Korea, or the Baleno is due for an update, and maybe that could bring the perfect balance that we're all looking for.